This video is brought to you by SKILLSHARE. SKILLSHARE is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative people like you and me. SKILLSHARE is ad-free, and so you're never distracted whilst you're exploring new skills. There are days where, as creatives, we suffer from burnout, where there is a lack to create or simply no motivation to do anything really. And sometimes you even begin to question your existence and ask yourself if you're truly living your life's purpose. I came across a class by Michelle B called Designing the Life You Want: 4 Exercises for Clarity and Motivation. I honestly took this class out of curiosity, and to be honest, I didn't even know this was something that I needed. She talks about something called anti-vision, which includes areas of your life that you do not want. She asked a very important question like, what could you do to make your life in 5 years an extremely unhappy one? And so I feel by creating anti-visions for your business or life in general, it can help tell you exactly what you want that business or life to look like at the end of the day. And so your brain starts working subconsciously to make sure that all those horrible things don't come to life, which usually results in a behavior change. She also talks about the 80-20 principle. As an example, like 80% of your time wasted comes from 20% of your distractions, 80% of your income comes from 20% of your products. And so I feel everyone needs this class because of how it will help guide you with a series of activities to do to give you the desired motivation that you need. So truthfully, it's for some classes like these that I personally think that you should join SKILLSHARE and become a member today, because you're always launching new premium classes every single week, and so there's always something new to discover. If you're interested in checking out SKILLSHARE, then kindly use the link in my description box, because the first 1,000 of you, my friends, who get to use the link in my description box gets a 1-month free trial of SKILLSHARE. After that, sticking to the premium plan does not dig a hole in your pocket. Again, I would always advise that you use your 1-month free access to do your own research on classes about anything, anything from photography, music, fine art, marketing, and even productivity. By supporting the people that support my channel, it allows me to keep creating free content for you guys, and so do check out SKILLSHARE. And thank you, SKILLSHARE, for making this possible. I want us to continue with the edit of this image. If you haven't seen the behind the scenes, I'm going to link it in the card. You can watch that. And whilst I was capturing these images in the behind the scenes video that I made, I also went ahead to just show you some adjustments that I wanted to add onto the image. And if you haven't seen that video, I will recommend that you see it, because I'm not going to start that process. But just to recap, this is what I did. So here's a before. This is the original file that came out of my camera, and when I had added like the adjustments, this is what we have. Again, I'm not going to show you everything I did, but if you want to see it, just go back into the previous video when I was capturing this image, and you will see how I adjusted it from this very warm tone to this. I'm going to right click and go down to edit with, and I'm going to click on Photoshop and then just press edit variants. Now this is going to load this image up into Photoshop, and we can begin making our adjustments from here. Alright, so now that we have this image inside Photoshop, we need to draw a plan. It's always important to know what you want to do to your images right before you start, okay? So the first thing is I want to crop. I know that now Instagram is also beginning to change, where they are allowing you to post, I think, a 9:16 photo right in your feed. But I'm just going to stick to my 4:5 crop. So the first thing I want to do is just crop this down to 4:5. And by so doing, it makes me just pay attention to the areas that need my attention, right? So what I'm just going to do is readjust the crop, because I want a little bit more space over here, and I also want a bit more space on the top. I'm gonna add content aware to see what Photoshop will be able to do, if it's going to be able to, you know, just fill up those pixels on the left and right hand side. So I'll just hit a check mark, and then let's see if Photoshop is able to create magic and fill those areas for us. All right, it seems Photoshop did do a good job, except with the light over here. It messed it up a little bit, but that's not too difficult. It's something we can easily fix, right? And what I want to do is actually just draw around this area like so. So just hit Command J, hit Command T, and what I want to do is just flip this. I'm just going to rotate that, and now all I'm going to do is just paint it out of the areas that, you know, it's not needed, just so it blends into the background. and a very low flow. And we're just going to make sure that this blends in gently. All right, so now at this point you can't really see that we've done anything, right? So before, after, it looks amazing. Let me just bring this back out. All right, cool. So I'm gonna hit Command E because we can measure down. I don't need to make this adjustment anymore. So now that we have the crop that we need to figure out our plan, right? So I'm gonna just draw around this image to see what we can do to the image. I'm gonna select a green color. First of all, just examining the image, obviously we'll need to do some skin retouching on the face. I need to get rid of these lines over here. The same thing down here. Remove a few of these lines and marks over here. Then I need to push this in a little bit, just like that. Also just work on this area. And when I come down to the outfit itself, what I'm thinking is I feel like this shouldn't be visible because it's the inner part of the fabric, and we have that same thing here. So maybe I'll just darken that down. But over here, I feel like it will make more sense if I rather clone some of the actual fabric over that area, so it fills that. And then since this is inside, we can just darken it a little bit so it covers it up. So that is the plan. Maybe when we're done, we'll just add a bit of color grading, and that should be it. I think at the top here, I may just get rid of these flyaways, and that should be it. And I'm going to be using my workflow actions and some of my LUTs, or presets to color this. I'm not too sure of the vibe, but we're able to get the look right in Capture One. So maybe I'll leave it as it is. I just want to start with the retouching, see how it looks, and then figure out if I need to make, any color adjustments to the image. All right. So first things first, I need to create a new blank layer, and I'm going to call this BM for blemish removal. And I'm going to start with my healing brush. I'm just going to start off by, cleaning out all the things that are immediately distracting to me. And I'm just going to be quick about this. All I'm using is my healing brush, and then just sampling over good areas and painting over the areas that I don't want to be entirely visible. All I'm doing is using the healing brush tool and painting over areas in the image that are distracting to me. And so I sample good areas and then just paint over the part that I want to deal with. And Photoshop will create pixels, just to get rid of that blemish. So the intention is not to get rid of all the blemishes in the image. I'm just trying to be as minimal as possible, just to add a bit of realism to the image. And it's also not a beauty portrait, so you don't need to go deep into like the skin and retouch every single blemish that you see. So now that we have that, I just want to use this opportunity as well to just get rid of these flyaways, and I'm using the clone stamp tool for that. So I just sampled an area and I'm just painting over the blemishes. So I'm just painting over these stray hairs. I think this already makes it look neat. So here's a before and after. I can see just removing those lines and marks on her skin, just smoothing things out quite a bit. Now what I want to do is just clone this area in just easily. So what I'll do is create a new layer. I don't want to put that on that blemish layer just yet. And what I'll do now is just sample, paint close to the edge. I'm using a Wacom tablet, so this is where if you have a Wacom tablet it really becomes handy, because I don't know how you'll be able to do this with a mouse. Strokes are much more refined and controlled than if you were to use a mouse for something like this. So if you really want to up your game, your retouching game, I will recommend that you do get a Wacom tablet. It really does help. What I want to do now is just darken this area. And what I'm going to do actually just use curves. So I just create a curves adjustment and just darken this area down. Right now it's darkening the entire image. I don't really mind. Hit Command I to invert the layer mask. Go back to my brush tool by hitting B. And I'm going to paint with white just to fill this area in like so. If I do this and it's too much, then maybe I will have to find another way around. I'm I'm gonna use a soft brush. I think this looks good. Here's before, here's after. It also adds a bit of definition on her thigh. So this looks good. Now I want to first of all run my relighting action. I'll go into relighting, I'll press play, and this should just create our relighting group for us. But what I actually want to do is just put a brighten on her face, and I don't need a darkening just yet. So you can see we've brightened up her face a bit and brought it more into focus. I'll just reduce opacity because I don't want it to be very strong. Here's a before, here's an after. Yeah, now you can see that we've been able to brighten her face up a touch. Before, after, before, after. This looks good. Still think it's too strong. Just go down to about 45%. Before, after, before, after. Yeah, this is good. So now what I'm going to do is merge all of these down into one group. So before, after, this is what we've done so far. All right, so now that I have grouped everything into this layer right here, we're going to run our frequency separation action. I'm going to go into my workflow actions, look for the 16-bit action, press play, and this is just going to run the action. I'm going to define a radius. I'm thinking somewhere around 3.6 should be fine. I'll press OK and let it run the rest of the action. Now I'm going to open that. I don't need a helper for now, so I can even just delete that, and I'm going to select the blur copy, and this is what I'm going to be working on, right? So what I want to do now basically is just go over the entire image with a mixer brush and just make sure that I'm evening out the tonal transitions, making it a lot smoother. But then again, my aim is not to do everything with this frequency separation layers that I've created. This is just supposed to help me with dodge and burn, making it, you know, a lot easier of a process for me. Let's just say we've been able to do our frequency separation. Here's a before and after. Again, I don't want it to be too in your face after something like that, so I'll just bring the opacity down, let's say to about 63% before and after. And I'll go back into my actions and I'm going to run my dodge and burn complete. I'll press play on that. I don't want the contrast to be this deep, so I will just open up the shadows, brighten it up a little bit as well, and we'll just start, you know, dodging and burning this image to even out the transitions even more. Right, I'll start with burn, and I'll choose a regular brush for this with a very low flow, let's say about 2%, and I'll start painting with white over the areas that I want to darken. So areas like this, I want to darken them a little bit. Okay, let's just inspect what we've done so far. So here's before, here's after. I like what we've done so far. Again, I don't want it to be too obvious. I will reduce opacity of the dodge and burn. Nothing too, you know, forced, nothing too intense. I really like the feel of the image. It's before, after. You see, when everything comes together, then you begin to see, you know, the whole change that we've been able to make on this image, and I really like it. There's this white patch over here that I want to get rid of, so maybe for this I will use the patch tool, just draw over that and drag it down. Yeah, this has gotten rid of that white patch for me. Okay, yeah, that looks good. Now what I want to do is just, you know, work on the contrast of the image a little bit, but before I do that, let me just apply my liquify. I'll just go to filter and come down to liquify, and now we're just going to add a bit of liquify onto this image. All right, so like I said, I want to push this in a little bit. I think with the way she was posing, she was pressing her arm on her body, and so we just brought that part out, and I just want to even that a little bit. Okay, so before, after. I may have pushed it a little bit too much. Just like that. And now I'm just gonna push this in just to enhance it. Before, after, before, after. I like that. Okay. The aim is not to change her completely. It's just to, you know, put what would naturally be there, you know, and then just enhance it a tiny bit. But then she still looks like herself. Here's before, here's after. You can see just tiny adjustments have come together to give us a really nice looking image, right? Now I just want to push this in ever so slightly. And push that in as well. Just to taper it as it gets down, right? And this also just helps create the illusion of the shape, right? And the form. So press OK to that. And now I think we've been able to, you know, post-process this image beautifully. So here's a before, here's after, before, after. Okay, now what I want to do is just work on the contrast a bit. So I'll create a new curves, and I'm just gonna bring this dark part in. When I press Alt and start dragging it in, the moment I begin to see any colors showing through, it means those parts are, you know, burned completely, and I don't want that, right? So I'm just gonna look for just about the parts where the colors begin to break in, and I'll just leave it at that. So here's a before, after. You can see that we've really darkened that up. I'll go into the highlights and do the same thing, and obviously those two big patches of white are the lights, so those can be blown out. And you can see that now we're beginning to blow out her dress as well. I don't want that. So maybe somewhere around here I think should look good. We can add a bit of specularity in her dress. It's completely fine. So here's before, after. We've been able to add, you know, a lot of contrast to the image. Now let's just see if we can play with color a little bit. So I'm going to my actions, and first I want to just click on anti-red. Let's just see if we can reduce the reds in the image a little bit more. So this just does a very good job of reducing the reds in the image. Again, I don't want it to be too strong, so I'll just reduce that. Let's say to about 60%. Yeah, that looks good. And now what I'm going to do is click on color grade and press play. It's going to create all the layers I need for color grading, and I'm just going to open that, and now we can start with our color lookup. Let's just see what my Phloshop LUTS will do to the image. So this really darkens the image. Let me just reduce opacity of that. Do it before and after. I think I'll keep it. I'll go into color balance, and in the midtones, let's just see if we can play with, ooh, actually cooling this looks good. Just add a bit of magenta, add some yellows. Yeah, actually adding some yellows looks good. I'll go into the shadows, add a bit of blue, and a tiny bit of green, and maybe a bit of red. I'll go into the highlights, and then let's just warm up the highlights. Just like that. Add a bit of green. I'll go into hue, saturation. I'll go into the reds. Just bump up the saturation of the reds. Just like that. Should even change the hue a bit. I'll leave it at 0. Also just brighten that a little bit. We'll go into yellows. Also increase the saturation of the yellows. Just a little bit like that. You can see I'm just eyeballing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just looking for what's like looking good in the image, and then just going with that. Yeah, I feel like darkening the yellows a bit just works. I'll go into green, saturate the greens a bit. Also lighten them up. Yeah, just a tiny bit. Now I'm gonna go into selective color, and let me just go straight into blacks, and let's see what we can put into the blacks. I feel like maybe just adding, just ooh, adding this blue tone just gives it a vibe, but I don't want to overdo it. And let's just open the blacks. Let's just not kill it completely. Alright, let's go into neutrals and see what we can do in the neutrals. Yeah, I think warming it up in the neutrals will do a really nice job. You can see all I'm just doing is adding +1, +2, maximum 3. So I'm doing that on both ends, so maybe -1, +1. I'm just not going overboard with anything. I'm being quite careful. Let's see what we can put in the highlights, if we have to put anything at all. Yeah, actually just warming it up looks good. I really like this grade. Okay, let's see, before, after. Yeah, we've actually brought it to life. We've added more saturation and depth to the image. I'm gonna go into anti-red and then just reduce that even more. This is looking amazing. I'm gonna go into the vibrance and increase vibrance a little bit and add a bit of saturation as well. And oh my god, I love this. You can see it's a combination of several things that are just giving me, you know, the final look of the image. I absolutely love it. Here's a before and here's an after. What I want to do last is just add a bit of film grain to the image. So just press play on that, press OK again, and then we've been able to add a nice level of film grain. I'll just reduce that, let's just say to about 54%, and this is the final color graded edited image. I love it. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. It's been a long video, but let me know if you enjoyed it. If you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below as well. Check out my digital store. I have a ton of products in there that are going to help you retouch and, you know, get amazing results while you're at it. And all of them also come with tutorials on how to use them, so you're not going to be left alone. Also, if you have questions, you can send me an email. I also now have one-on-one mentorship going on, so if you just go onto my website, you see all of that there. You can purchase any of those. If you enjoyed the video, again, just let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.